Hello and welcome to Talking Development. I'm recording this episode from Lima, Peru. Today I'm delighted to welcome two leaders who are making significant strides in driving positive change in Peru. Joining me are Rosario Bazan, CEO of Damper, and Micaelo Rizzo Patron, General Manager of Peru Sostenible. Unlocking the talents, ideas, and leadership skills of women is imperative for countries to achieve their full economic potential. Both of my guests are at the forefront of innovative business models that prioritize social impact, environmental sustainability, and economic resilience. Rosario and Micaela, welcome. It is a pleasure to have you here with us today. Rosario, I'm going to start with you. You're at the helm of a leading agro-export company here in Peru, and I know from our earlier conversation you place a lot of emphasis on sustainability. And I would love for you to share with us your insights on how, as a private company, you can really create economic opportunities, particularly in rural areas and also for disadvantaged people.
Thank you for the question, Anna. The reality in Peru shows that one of the big challenges we have is poverty. Out of the 32 million people, 30% are poor people. To be poor people is not to have access to clean water, not to have access to electricity, not to have access to sewage, neither education and neither health. That situation replicates in the workers that come to our companies. If we invest in their education, in their health, and we provide with conditions that are fair and equitable inside our organization, those women and men that work in the company will increase their level of productivity, and that productivity will impact in their families and in their communities. And that will also have a great impact in the productivity and competitiveness of our company. I was a strong believer that we needed to create a model that responds to the reality of the places where we were operating. We are able to connect the profitability of our company with the progress of our workers, their families, their communities, and our small farmers. That's the only way we can sustain the economic growth and we can be sustainable in the long term.
You were quite visionary in finding this sweet spot between the company's profitability in a way, but also the increased prosperity of the employees. But Micaela, I'm going to turn to you now. And you lead a nonprofit association that promotes sustainable practices for both business resilience as well as long-term social progress in Peru. What practices do you see Peruvian companies take and embrace when it comes to sustainability?
Well, thanks Anna for the question. I'm happy to share this space with Rosario. I think the main thing is how they've started to understand sustainability not as corporate social responsibility, but going beyond and seeing it as interconnection and having sustainability within that core and the heart of the organization. It's a way of building resilience, it's a way of mitigating risk and generating opportunities. I always describe business as a motor of development within each country and each development challenges of particular contexts. In Peru particularly, we have an interesting structure of a few, I would say less than 5% large companies in the country, and then 95% SMEs. So the large companies, which are the ones we work with mostly in Peru Sostenible, have a great opportunity to work through their value chains with the SMEs and expand these different standards, expand different practices for sustainability practices, and also start by providing incentives to improve practices on all the value chain, and also start measuring and I think expanding that positive impact from a large company through the whole value chain that can reach out to different areas and different regions of the country as well.
One thing that I was really encouraged to hear is your emphasis on the role of companies in bringing innovation, because we know that climate action needed around the world needs both public and private, but really the private sector, and not just for money, but also for innovation, technology enhancements. I'm going to come back on innovation. But Rosario, turning back to you, you shared some numbers earlier, and one number that's sticking with me is you work with a lot of farmers, and a lot of those farmers are actually female farmers. And you also mentioned that a lot of the households in Peru are actually female-headed households. Right. So how do you see the connection between, in some ways, women empowerment and women leadership in your field and addressing issues such as nutrition, food security, decision-making around even the current and future spending in households towards a betterment of the lives of the population in the country?
I have the privilege to lead a company in which 52% are women. So what I can see since decades ago is that for the first time ever, these women in Peru are having the great opportunity to be inserted in the formal labor market. So they become agents of change, and what we can see that they are able to transform their own lives. They become agents of their own destiny. 90% of the income of a woman goes straight to the food, the education, and the health of the children. In the year 2000, in the agriculture, from 3 people, 1 was woman. Nowadays, from every 2 people that work in the agribusiness, one is woman. So, if we see the curve of poverty in Peru, it has gone from 50, 40, now it is 30, which is still high. But I am convinced, and the studies show, that one of the factors that has contributed to reduce poverty in a structural way is the incorporation of women in the formal market. Why? Because again, they are being able to interrupt the transmission of poverty from one generation to others. As private company, we cannot do it alone because the needs are infinite. So what we do is work in alliances with the Ministry of Education, for example. As I was telling you this morning, there are 8 million people in Peru out of the 32 that couldn't finish primary, neither secondary. What we do through this alliance is bringing the school to the factory. Our workers study during the day, and at night the training offices become school. Now in our region, there are the largest companies, they are doing this, embracing this initiative to bring school into the company. So that's the only way to be sustainable in a country like ours.
So replicating innovative practices, Michaela, I want to come back to you. In Peru, and coming back to this notion that companies play a huge role in sustainable development. What innovation do you see the private sector does and can do that is really not something you necessarily see by the public sector, and therefore it re-emphasizes the need to have the private sector at the table when we talk about sustainable development?
And an interesting study that was made in Peru is the most entrepreneurial country in the world. There's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of innovation, and SMEs show a lot of innovation. So there's great alliances also between large companies and SMEs for solutions on different topics. Great examples on nature-based solutions, green infrastructure, on reducing violence against women. Large companies have a great role in creating more resilience with the SMEs they work with. TASA, which is one of the largest finishing companies in the world, they're working with the wives of the fishermen to create a business from the recycled nylon and fishing lines. Businesses in general are this driving force, and innovation is key, and it's exciting also. No, it's kind of keeps inspiration going on.
Both of you are trailblazers. I want to thank you for really setting new standards, breaking new grounds, and look forward to sharing this good wisdom with many of the viewers of Talking Development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and thank you to the World Bank, IFC, for every time you invest in our country through the government and through the private companies, because the mandate is to generate inclusive growth. We cannot only applaud the growth of the GDP, we got to include the progress social indicators. That's the only way we can have the peace we need in order to sustain, in order to make the population sustainable, the community sustainable, our company sustainable, and our countries.
Couldn't agree more.
Thank you, Anna. And I would add to Rosario's comment, and the role the World Bank has played in the development of our country, and coming with this global perspective of global solutions, but also the importance of this local approach on really making it happen. So we're looking forward to keep going, and there's lots to do.
Well, as a global institution, people often talk about our global knowledge, but what we have to remember is that it comes from local experiences. So for us, it's just wonderful to hear stories of innovation, of results, of creativity from the countries we work in, because that helps us have a global perspective, because we're building it up really from country experience. So thanks to both of you. Good luck with everything. And I look forward to watching the space on where you go next. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you, Rosario and Micaela, for sharing your valuable insights today. So here's my take. It is clear that the private sector is a critical partner in driving sustainable development and tackling the complex challenges facing Latin America, including creating enough jobs while protecting the environment. The work of Damper and Peru Sostenible serves as an inspiring example of how the private sector can drive economic growth that is inclusive, resilient, and sustainable while contributing to long-term social progress and inclusion. I'm excited to see the continued impact of these efforts and the broader movement toward a more inclusive and sustainable future, both in the region and beyond. That's all for today. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Talking Development.